This is the start of the Norton Conservation Commission meeting for Monday, May 10th, scheduled for beginning at 6:30, a little past that right at the moment, 6:34. Since the onset of the COVID experience, we have to start with the preamble concerning the necessity for remote meetings. And we'll begin with that now. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order superseding certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, paragraph 20 order, imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Norton Conservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and or a requirement to attend this meeting can be found at the end of this agenda. Members of the public attending this public hearing/meeting virtually during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by raising their hand virtually or pressing star 6 if participating by phone. No in-person attendance of members to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Best efforts we will post on the Norton Cable website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. We are now going to open with a statement of the commission members participating. We have Jean Blood, Lisa Carrozza, Ron O'Reilly, myself, Dan Pearson. We have our conservation director, Jennifer Carlino, and our assistant, Melissa Quirk, also participating in the meeting. And our first item for open discussion is Free Conservation Area by Aidan Gilbert. So do we have Aidan on the line, or are we going to discuss this without a presentation?
It doesn't look like they're here, so I would think they would want to present it, but up to you if you want to.
Well, why don't we do this? If we see they appear, we can let them know that perhaps the discussion will be rejoined at the end of the meeting. Is that a reasonable proposal? We can consider a motion to move this item to the later.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. All right, so a motion made by Gene and seconded by Dan Pearson, rather. So roll call vote. Gene?
Aye.
And Letha?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
Dan Doyle?
Aye.
And Dan Pearson?
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. Unfortunately, we're still cursed with that delay, but we'll work with it the best we can. Our next item number 250-1073 concerning 154 Pine Street. And I think there were still items to be clarified. And do we have a representative? That looks like we do. Would that be Claire?
Oh,
You're
yes.
still muted, Claire.
Hi, Claire Hogebone with LEC Environmental Consultants, representing the applicant. And joining me is Greg Bunovitz with Borderland Engineering, who did the surveying and plan preparation, as well as the ILSF calculations.
All right.
Great, thank you.
So I don't have the list of items, but what were the list of items to be still clarified?
From my understanding, what we provided is revised plans to address 2 items, including the approximate vernal pool boundary for the M series isolated wetland, and reinstating the natural heritage potential vernal pool labels on the plans as well. So we've done both of those. And the third item that was outstanding was providing some more supporting evidence for the determination of the lateral extent of ILSF associated with the I series wetland. We've provided revised ILSF calculations, summarize sort of how we got to that determination based on the 100-year flood elevation calculations, in addition to observed site characteristics.
Okay. Any further items, Jen, on that?
Oh, well, I've been off all week, so I just got them today and forwarded them to you today. So we asked Greg to be here to maybe go through the ILSF calculations so you can see them.
Okay.
I could actually share my screen. I have them on my screen, if that's all right, Jennifer.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. And I might be sharing, do you all see the plan set now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I have the
You.
supporting calculations here as well. Just to run briefly through it, a lot of everything really stayed the same, except there's just a little more clarity provided to sort of summarize exactly how we got to the elevation of 84.5 for the series wetland there. As we discussed at the last meeting, we went through a couple of steps first. First of all, we found 9 depressions in the site that were capable of or being considered ILSF. And what Greg did from there was he ran calculations to determine if those 9 depressions were capable of confining a volume of water greater than a 1/4 acre foot and to an average depth of 6 inches. He did that based on the crest elevation. And based on that first calculation, only 4 of the depressions exceeded the calculations to meet the volumetric criteria. That includes the L, the J, the double K series, and the I series. So that's what we see here. Woo, I zoomed in a lot. And that, I'm about to do it again, I apologize. So from there, with those 4 depressions, the next calculation to run there is the 24-hour 1-year storm event to determine if those 4 depressions would actually hold a sufficient amount of water at least once a year, which also combines the high groundwater table. It considers that those depressions themselves are impervious and that upgradient areas within the watershed area are pervious and able to infiltrate the water, which resulted in the I series being the only depression that continued to exceed that volumetric criteria, which ultimately led to the last calculation to be run, which is the 100-year storm event that Commission member Lisa was asking about at the last meeting, which he ran, and also took into account that groundwater table and the pervious versus impervious, which resulted in the 84.22 elevation. And just based on the site conditions, leaf staining, the elevation of wetland flags rounded up to 84.5 to be a little more conservative with that boundary. And I think I recall Lisa asking about watershed area. So I'm just going to scroll down to the end of the document, which has the watershed area provided here. So here we have the I series area in red is sort of providing that outer limit of the watershed area. And same for, here's the L series that was considered, the J series that was considered. And then on this next sheet, the double K series that was considered as well.
Could you just zoom into I for a second? I just want to see
Yes.
that elevation. So 84.5.
Is that zoomed in enough for you? I could go a little further.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I do have that one.
Does anyone have any other questions on the isolated land subject to flooding or the isolated wetlands?
If we're opening up to the entire audience, I need to review raising your hand.
Yep, I'm just gonna make one more comment. I'm not sure if
Any
we
other-
actually did it during the public hearing or not, but you have submitted the 2 vernal pool surveys, that documentation. So just to note for the record that the applicant has overcome the presumption that vernal pools do not exist on the site by providing that information.
Thank you.
Okay, fire away, Julian. Thanks.
All right, so for any participant in the meeting or make a comment, there are 2 approaches to raising your hand depending on the version of Zoom that you have. One is in the reactions button with the raise hand at the bottom. The other is in the participants list. There is a raise hand option depending on your version. Currently, I don't see any hands raised. Soon we can consider a motion. I think we have everything, all the information we need, but you haven't had time to really review what was submitted today because of your just returning recently. The idea that we can act on the orders of conditions next meeting. Is that something that is feasible?
I think you could probably do that tonight anyway. I think you can still close and act on the draft. Mostly because everything that we received
Okay.
is
So
really confirmation of what we received the last time. And it won't take me long to go through that.
all right. So again, looking at the participants list, I do not see any hands up. So we can, unless there are further comments from the commission, I just about pressed the wrong button there, so we won't leave the meeting. So we can consider a motion to close the public.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing for file 250-1073.
Second.
We have a motion made by Dan Doyle and seconded by Lisa to close the public hearing on file number 250-1073. We'll start with a roll call vote. And Lisa, you're up first. Aye or nay?
Aye.
Ron?
Aye.
And Jean?
Aye.
Dan Doyle and Dan Pearson?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will throw in an aye. Yeah, I got Jean. I got everybody, I think, right? Yes. All right. So thank you, and we will be acting on the order of conditions. Actually, the order of ORAD. Go with that.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everybody's time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Our next item is a request for determination of applicability, determination 1109 for Massachusetts Coastal Railroad on the Massachusetts Coastal Railroad right-of-way, been continued in 412 and 426s, and vegetation management activities. Do we have a representative for that applicant?
There was an email late this afternoon, after 5 sometime, where they requested a continuance. We still haven't scheduled the site inspection, and if you have any comments on the application of the plans that you want me to forward to the application, to the applicant, you know, we can take those comments now.
So they're asking for a boundary confirmation, and I assume they flagged wetlands?
Wetlands are not flagged. It's the USGS with the highlighting.
Then how can we confirm a wetland boundary delineation without flags at that scale? Without flags is like the most important thing, obviously.
I agree that you would not be able to do that.
Yeah.
And we request them to go out and flag the wetlands.
Okay, I will pass that information on to them, and they requested a continuance, so they did not specify which meeting they would like.
The other thing we might consider in order to, if they have to understand they have to have a flag, they probably haven't ever have it flagged, but in an effort to cut down on maybe the base mapping, they can use aerials combined with the flagging instead of a ground topo. Just trying to work with them to
Okay,
not make a science project out of it, but at the same time, they have to realize they can use these plans in perpetuity every time they come in every 5 years. So once it's done, it's done.
Yep. Okay. And so we-
If there are no further comments, go ahead.
I was just going to say the next meetings are May 24th and June 14th.
Did they have a preference, or we'll just continue?
All right, so I think-
24? All right, I'll make a motion to continue
I
it.
think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made by Lisa and seconded by public hearing for determination number 1109 until May 24th. So again, roll call vote, starting with Jean.
Aye.
And then Lisa, and then
Aye.
Ron.
Aye.
And then Dan Doyle and Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Aye.
And then I'll throw in an aye. So our next item is notice of intent File number 250-1070, Wyandotte Share Corporation, 0 Rear Eddy Street. And this has been continued multiple meetings. Where do we stand with this? Do we have an applicant
Yes, good evening.
present?
Yes, this is Tim McGuire from Goddard Consulting. I'm here on behalf of Sam Wydack from ShareCorp. Can I do a quick screen share of the plans, please? All right, bear with me for 1 second. All right, good evening, everyone. Again, for the record, my name is Tim McGuire. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting, here on behalf of Sam Wydack of ShareCorp Ltd. for the proposed construction of 4 duplexes, a couple of which fall within, one of which falls within buffer zone, along with grading within buffer zone and stormwater management features. So first of all, we appreciate the Commission's patience on this project. We understand that we've had several continuations over the past year. And at the completion of this meeting, we're going to have to request another continuance, as we were not able to have these stormwater calculations that were requested by the peer reviewer, John Chesia, completed by today's meeting date. So we will be working on those. We just did want to provide an update on the site plans and talk you through a couple of items in regards to this project. So first of all, one of the items that was a comment from the Commission was to have Riverfront Area shown on site, which we have here shown in blue. And this orange up here, just for a heads up, is the 100-foot buffer zone. So this down here is where the pond meets that spillway on site towards the eastern edge of the site with 140 right here, at which point from the spillway it runs underground for 200 feet, therefore exempting it from Riverfront Area. So those portions that do have Riverfront Area are shown here from the start and edge of the open water portion of the spillway, coming up into the proposed work here. So the work, all of the work within Riverfront adds up to a little over 1,000 square feet. So we have 72 square feet occurring in the inner riparian zone and 949 square feet of work occurring in the outer riparian zone. Now, I want to make a note that the work within the inner riparian zone, there's no grading proposed. There's just room around this, the limit of work here, to install the guardrail. So this work, as I said, it totals up to approximately 1,000 square feet, which is well under the 5,000 allowable, being as this lot was recorded prior to 1996. So this is what we are showing here. We received a comment from an abutter in regards to Riverfront Area on site just this afternoon. We will have that addressed if the Commission would like at the next hearing. So we wanted to introduce the Commission to this. The applicant, Sam Wydack, delivered the revised checks, including the amounts for Riverfront Area, to the Commission, and the revised check, including Riverfront, has been mailed to DEP, the Boston PO Box, as well. So this is where we stand in terms of showing Riverfront Area on site. And the other item that we'd like to discuss tonight with the Commission was the determination of floodplain on site. So I'll show another plan. Again, this is, so what we were just looking at was the entrance of the site to the east, which would be over here. And now we're looking at the proposed area for the duplexes. Excuse me. So just a reminder, only one of these duplexes falls within buffer zone. The other components, as I previously mentioned before, are some stormwater management features, rain gardens, and then a little bit of grading over here in another rain garden towards the west, associated with the westernmost duplex over here. So essentially, at the last hearing, we were asked how floodplain was determined on site, and we used the most recent FEMA map per the regulations. So as stated, that data is what we are able to reference for floodplain here. There were comments in regards to just making sure that that was accurately done so under the regulations, just to make sure that we would or would not have to do floodplain calculations for this area. So we have that shown on the wetland line here. So a few things to note. The average wetland line on site is at elevation 63. And as shown, as I said, we're showing the floodplain right along the wetland elevation here. There's no proposed impacts to wetlands. Most of the work is well over 100 feet from the site. Only at one point, at the closest point, work occurs 26 feet from the site, still maintaining out of the town's 25-foot policy, but only at this point is it that close, and over here as well, actually. So 2 points where we reach within 26 feet of the work. So it's essentially what we have. I have a picture as well. We have a spillway over on the easternmost portion of the site by 140, as I mentioned, and I can pull up a picture of that too if the commission would like. So the top of this spillway is at elevation 61.7, and there's about 8 to 10 feet of open water up to the top of that spillway that would have to fill up prior to the water levels of the surrounding area overtopping that. So with that, we provide that as evidence that the elevation of 63 is reasonable under the regulations as floodplain. Along with we have a signed statement from an abutter to the south, Mr. Pickett, who spent his entire life or a large portion of it living on the pond, and he went out to site with our survey team and indicated where the highest extent that he's ever seen the pond flood to would be, which was determined to be elevation 62.5, still below what we're showing as 63. So the regulations do state that the FEMA, that depicting the floodplain as we are in this proposal is rebuttable by evidence from a professional engineer. However, we are not trying to rebut that or change what is shown. We just are going with the floodplain as proposed up to the wetland elevation, as we do believe, because of the spillway and the aforementioned data, that this is a reasonable estimation of floodplain. Now that's what we have at this point for new information. As I previously mentioned, we're still working on getting all of the stormwater comments from Mr. Chesia completed, and those are in progress. So at this point, I believe that's all I have new to present, and I would be happy to entertain any questions or comments from the commission.
I will have a couple.
All right, why don't you go ahead, Jan?
Okay. The lots were created recently in an A&R plan signed by the planning board, so that's not earlier than 1996. Do you have some portion of the regulation you want to cite and get that to us?
Well, I can get you the deed. I think it was the furthest back we found it was from 1986. So we saw, I think it was 2004 that A&R plan is shown on the property card. Nothing on the property card is shown prior to that. So we did some research with the Bristol County North Registry of Deeds, and we did find the deed showing this property with the same bounds mentioned as in this current one. So that can certainly be something that we submit to you supplementally.
Yep, I would submit that. You mentioned 200-foot culvert, and so Riverfront Area is only at the very beginning near the dam. You would also provide us that citation as well, okay?
Absolutely. Yep. Of the water flowing under 140 there.
Whatever citation you can find that mentions if it's more than 200 feet of culvert, the riverfront doesn't apply, is what you're trying to document for us.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. We don't have a signed statement from Mr. Pickett, so if that's something you're saying is used in your BLSF determination, you'll need to submit that to us as well.
Yep. So here it is, and I did submit that to you
you did?
via email. Yeah, with our with the life plans I sent you a few days ago. If you don't have those, I can make sure that I just resend it as well.
Oh, all right. This is something you just sent recently?
Yes.
Okay. I was off all last week, and it seems like my out of office assistant message wasn't sending. So just so you know, I wasn't in, so I didn't see this yet. But if you already submitted it, you don't need to redo it.
Okay, no problem. We will we'll double check that just in case.
Okay, and we did receive a letter today from an attorney representing an abutter with photographs of the pond and some comments about whether Riverfront Area applies. So I know I got them today, so you got them today as well, and I'm assuming you'll look over that before the next meeting, unless you have some comments.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to comment on that at this point, or if the commission would prefer to wait to allow time for themselves to review that the regulations internally, I'm happy to wait, or I can kind of present what we have in regard to that.
Tim, why don't we do this? We do have one hand raised. So Julian, if you would call on that person and let them present the information they emailed us. And then if you want to comment on the other side, that would be okay.
All right, so it looks like Matthew Costa has a hand up. You'll have to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for the record, I represent the owner of the land abutting this property to the south, Deborah White, and the Winslow Farm Animal Awareness Corp. And I did send in a letter today outlining my client's concern that essentially she's observed the Meadowbrook Pond at times when the water's low, when it resembles a brook. When the water gets low, and we sent in one photograph showing this, that when the water's low, it travels along a channel down the center, from Meadowbrook through this area and on towards the dam in that direction. And so essentially what we're questioning is whether this is really, it should be classified as a river. Under the regulations of DEP, which I cited in my letter, a water body identified as a lake, pond, or reservoir on the current USGS map or more recent map provided by the department is a lake or pond, unless the issuing authority determines that the water body has primarily riverine characteristics. And so what we're arguing, or our position, I think that it's a reasonable position, and I can provide some more information that I didn't have at the time when I drafted the letter, is that although this is, it's called Meadowbrook Pond, it's really just a broad section of Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook flows into this, Meadowbrook flows out, and especially at times of low water, it's apparent that this area is also part of the brook. The DEP regulations, they state that riverine characteristics may include, but are not limited to, unidirectional flow that can be visually observed or measured in the field. And so I did attach a photograph, but then before the meeting, I went to Google Earth and I just looked at the historical imagery of Meadowbrook Pond, and the satellite images that Google has cataloged also show the same thing that my client was seeking to bring to your attention through the photograph that she took. So if I could share my screen, I could show the commission what I'm referring to. I could show you the Google Earth satellite images that show this of the pond at high water. It looks the way it does on the applicant's plans, but then when the water is low, it certainly resembles a brook. So if I may share a screen, is that something I can do?
Yep, go ahead. I made you a co-host.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so this is Google Earth, and you can see I think this is their most recent image of Meadowbrook. But then if we just go backwards through the historical imagery, and my client, she owns the land to the south in this area. And the land that's under consideration is to the north in this area. So if we just go backwards at various times, you can see here that the water's lower, and you can see the channel flowing through this way, up in this direction. And so that's when maybe the water is sort of at a medium height, because some of these images show it even lower, with the channel apparent of flowing water. So this one is when the water's high. And so here's another example. This is, according to Google, it was taken in 2016. So you can see the channel flowing this way, and then
A pond.
right over here, it pools up. But certainly this is part of the area under consideration. And if we go back to other images, it goes higher. This is in the winter. Here's another one. 2014, this is around the time my client took her photograph in 2014. And so we see once again, there's a channel through here, and then, you know, it comes down into this area. So this is not the typical, you know, most ponds don't have this phenomenon where it looks like a channel. That's a sign of flowing water. Some ponds do get dry in the summer months, but according to the DEP regulations, what we're to look for is evidence of unidirectional flow that can be visually observed. And so we respectfully submit that's what this is. And so at the very least, more than what is shown presently on the plans, clearly there's evidence that there's a flow of water, and that at times of the year, all it is a brook.
Okay, and so the photograph that you sent, I didn't see a date on it. Can you, put the appropriate date on the photograph and sign that? That would be helpful. And then if you're submitting Google Earth photos, please do that in hard copy as well as PDF with the dates on the plans.
Okay, and my client couldn't be present tonight, otherwise I would have had her here to personally speak to the photograph because she took it. And so I will do that.
So Jennifer, may I comment on his response?
Yep, go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Costa, for that information, and we'll
Yeah.
create your coming into the project. So a few comments. First of all, the regulations. If I could just do another screen share, I believe I still have the power.
Yeah,
So
I
the
can do it.
regulations. Yeah, there we go. And now the Zoom bar is in my way. Bear with me 1 second. So the regulations do state that the determination primarily shall be made if the area is shown as such on the most recent USGS map, which we have in front of us here, Meadowbrook Pond. We have evidence of the commission previously treating the area as a pond from other projects in abutting area on abutting properties, in which we are happy to compile and submit to the commission. A couple comments on the Google Earth photos. It did appear that a couple of them were depicting those low water that we're showing. It appeared that they were in the summer, and I'm questioning whether or not those areas on the periphery could have been algal blooms that just gave the area an indication that the water was lower based on an aerial photo view. However, the presumption is overcome based on evidence of flow. And if you'll bear with me 1 second for another screen share, I have a video of the area today. I took this a few hours ago of me. I tossed a stick in the water and then a banana peel that you can see not floating. And it is worth noting that southeastern Massachusetts, including Norton, is within a level 2 drought status as of today under the state. So these are the conditions that we're looking at today under a drought conditions, presumably low water. So if you'll watch the video, here, let me see if I can shut off my volume on this. There's no volume, so just in case I'm talking over. You can see the stick that I tossed in the water there, and you can see it's a very riveting video. Nobody blink, but you'll see that nothing moves. And in a second, I give a real graceful toss to a banana peel. Boom. And once the water settles, you will see for a minute or however long I posted this video that the banana peel and the stick do indeed not demonstrate characteristics of flow within the pond, being that they are staying in the same place. It was a beautiful day today, and the pond did look like glass. And I have another video as well of another stick, just so that you can see me tossing the stick in the water. I got that one out a little further. So generally, when we do these determinations to figure out if an area is demonstrating riverine characteristics, you'll start to see it floating away or moving in one direction or another. And for the record, I am facing south in this picture. So this may or may not be the area that the attorney is representing for. But this is facing south, standing on our northern edge of the pond there. And I did have a couple other pictures, if relevant, of the. Let me stop sharing.
I just have a question about that. So, what was the purpose of that video? You're saying that flow is not occurring because you didn't see it during that video? I don't quite get it.
That is correct. So generally, flow is tested using I've heard it called the orange peel test. I didn't happen to have any oranges at home, so I used a banana peel, in which you toss an orange peel because they float into the water for a certain period of time and wait to see if it flows down the stream. So being a floating object, if there was flow in the river, the peel would float with it. So the purpose of those videos was to demonstrate that there was no flow observed at this time in the drought state. Yeah, and also I do have pictures from last year, from 2020, also a drought. I'm sorry. Did you have a comment? You were cutting out.
Well, I mean, I think we have to define what the issue is. The issue is, does this fall within riverfront regulations or not? And you're making the pitch that it does. It does not, because most of the time it is a pond-like structure. But, all pond-like structures have flow, that you can't necessarily demonstrate it with an orange peel.
Yes, you be able to be demonstrated.
I mean, that's the question.
And
Sure.
it's also, if you went out there at August or say early September and threw that orange or banana peel in the water, it very well could have floated. Now, does that mean it is riverfront or it is a pond? The same thing could be argued.
So the definition under 310 CMR 10.82H, which Attorney Costa did include in his letter, is that a water body identified as a lake, pond, or reservoir on the current USGS map or more recent map, which I showed, as it stated, Meadowbrook Pond, provided by the department, is a lake or pond unless the issuing authority determines that the water body has primarily riverine characteristics. And then those riverine characteristics that Attorney Costa goes on to determine state that the regulation further provides, in a pertinent part, that riverine characteristics may include, but are not limited to, unidirectional flow that can be visually observed or measured in the field. And the method that I used with the banana peel was the attempt to measure that unidirectional flow. I've also seen studies done with where dye is introduced to the system, and if it shows up in downstream areas, then that could be determined. But at these kind of primary stages, I used what equipment was available to me. So we in our the only riverfront area is that of the spillway, the open water portion of that spillway, as marked on the USGS as a perennial stream.
Whoops, I think what's counterintuitive
when you say the regulation has go ahead, Lisa.
I think what's counterintuitive is, on the USGS map, it's showing, obviously it's a river flowing into the pond. And then you have a river flowing out of the pond. So one would assume that the river would be conveyed throughout the pond.
Doesn't matter.
So there is the spillway there that once it's overtopped, the water flows into that spillway, and that's where I would argue, and we could look into this further again, that's where the flow begins downstream of the pond. As you can see based on the evidence I've provided at this time, you can see that by this picture, the water's like glass. Today there's no wind or anything. I have previous pictures from last year as well that there's a little bit of wind but it's still fairly calm, just like this, and you can see the lily pads in the background. Those are tethered to the bottom, but there's, I'm confident that this area is not demonstrating primarily riverine characteristics.
So was the water flowing through the dam?
And I get,
I'm sorry, go ahead, say again.
Was the water flowing through the dam?
In the spillway, the water, yes, flows in the dam downstream under the bridge there. And we show
face
Riverfront.
this issue with basically. All right, we face this issue basically with every pond-like structure or reservoir-like structure in town, and if the regulations state that primarily riverine or lake-like, then the question is what percentage of the time agreed when everything is dry, you're going to have more riverine characteristics, but what percentage of the time is it more pond-like versus more riverine-like would be the determination. And so from my perspective, if it's gets riverine-like 1 month out of the year, it's probably more considered a pond. Is that a fair statement? Costa could address that.
I think that the word primarily, that does connote, more than, half of the characteristics. So I wouldn't necessarily disagree.
Are there any historic aerials that you can find? Because obviously the dam was put there to impound something, right? And typically you would think that it was there to impound flowing water. Maybe not. Can you find some historic aerials that show what it was before the dam was put in? Do we know how old that is?
Certain on the date of the spillway, but yes, we can look into the record for historical aerials. I do know it is a registered dam, so I'm sure there would be a date associated with that. We can get back to you on that.
And that might give us more evidence.
If I may, I believe that I've seen maps suggesting this has existed since perhaps the 1800s. So it's quite old. And also, if I
the question for Mr. Costa. Well, all right, just I know sorry I interrupted you, but I am assuming the reason you're addressing us is that you feel that the characteristics of the inner and outer riparian regulations need to apply to this project. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I would remind the commission that in previous projects surrounding the pond, over the course of the file review that I was able to complete, the commission has viewed this as a pond historically, with the 100-foot buffer zone.
And Tim, you can give us those file numbers just to make it easier for us.
And
Certainly, I can have those turned in. I don't have them right off the top of my head now, but absolutely.
I mean, the riverfront section is really rather complicated. And so I think both sides would submit as much documentation as they think is necessary for the commission to review. And then once we have those packets, from each of you, the commission would be able to look at both of them and then go through the regs step by step to see what they think is accurate. It's not going to be decided tonight. It's too complicated a section. Yeah.
And we are continuing anyway, as a reminder, just because we're finishing the stormwater stuff. We weren't anticipating getting this close tonight.
If I may, I just have one other comment, is that
Sure.
I think that part of the issue also is if for the sake of argument, the commission determines there is a pond there, especially the more easterly side adjacent to the dam. The question is, on the westerly side, that's where we think there's evidence, the strongest evidence that there's flow there part of the year. And, we had that visual imagery from Google Earth. So I think the question is, how far to the west does the pond extend? Where does the river begin and end? Because that makes a substantial impact on, where that 200-foot riverfront will apply.
All good questions.
All right, so Tim, you'll be submitting additional information on that, I'm assuming.
We do have one more hand being raised. I think Sherry's on the call.
Hi Jennifer, how are you? Sherry Wydeck from ShareCorp. I noticed on your town website in Googling ponds in Norton that Meadowbrook Pond was referred to as comprised of an area of approximately 13 acres. Like Chartley in Barrowsville is classified as man-made. The pond is privately owned and there's no public access. The pond is named from Meadowbrook, which feeds the pond. Meadowbrook Pond was created by damming the brook to provide power for several mills, which opened and operated in the middle 19th century and early 20th century. So one main industry was the ice harvesting. And the pond from the 1880s to about 1941 was used as ice harvesting. So there's, I don't know how all of a sudden you can contradict what you've already written about the pond. That could be anything but a pond. I mean, this is in your town, the history of the pond. So I think we should historically look at what it is always been named as and what it actually is, a pond. Thank you.
I think we're looking at two different things here. You're looking at the history of the pond in the context of the bigger picture, and now we're looking at applying the Wetlands Protection Act. Those are really two different things.
And I would also add that it may well turn out that the determination will be that this is to be treated as a pond and not a running river. Simply by looking at the regulations and the fact that the primary characteristics, and so we just have to look into settling that discussion.
I do have one other question.
Any further comments? Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
So the flood zone elevation, according to FEMA, I assume it's an A and not an AE zone?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So what's really hard to tell there is there was a pretty steep drop, if I remember, a bank almost on that side where the ice house was, the sluiceway was. Is that topo reflected on your existing conditions plan?
Yes, we have the topography shown of that hill coming from where that driveway is. Did you want me to pull that back up?
Yeah, if you could, because it's a little funky. I'm just not convinced that the flood zone would be at the same elevation as a BBW in that situation, but.
So yeah, again, as I kind of articulated earlier, this spillway here, from the top of it is at elevation 60.92, and there's approximately, if you stand next to it, you'll see that it's about 8 to 10 feet until you hit the open water there of the spillway. So in order to overtop the spillway itself, you would need that much water, along with getting up to the wetland elevation, which the average along the flags was 63. So therefore, that's why we are stating that we believe that this is a reasonable estimation of the floodplain, and a reminder that we're not proposing work anywhere near the wetlands themselves. We're not impacting wetlands. The vast majority of the project is well over 100 feet from the property. You can better see it kind of on this graphic, but
Yes, I'm actually talking about the slope that was along this side.
are you,
Not here, along the, whatever side that is, west? I don't know where your north arrow is.
this is the eastern side of the property. The plans are oriented.
Keep going out where the condos are proposed, or the units are proposed. Wasn't that I thought that was a steep drop off in there.
So the steep topography is, you can see it right here. When you pull
No,
up
keep going around to the left. I don't know what direction you are. I can't see your north arrow. Keep going.
Yeah,
Keep
so
going.
I can't. I'm gonna have to go to the next plan. So,
Okay,
Yeah, she's asking, go to the next sheet.
yeah, sorry.
go to the next sheet.
So
Okay. I thought there was a fairly steep drop off along this side,
Yes,
and I'm not seeing that in the topo.
where the concrete blocks are.
Yeah,
are you referring or over here?
Yes.
yeah.
we
Can you zoom in there for a minute?
Yeah, we can, yeah, that certainly does, that doesn't appear to be the case based on the site plans, but we
No,
can take a look at that for sure.
because I'm seeing an edge of BVW, which doesn't seem to, I can't tell if it's the top of the bank of the pond or the bottom. And I can remember a fairly steep slope there. So in this location, you're saying that the edge of the flood zone is at the BVW.
That's correct. Which the entirety of this, this line isn't right up against the bank of the pond. There are portions of it where it does come out as vegetated wetland.
So did you not flag the bank of the pond? I mean, I assume,
Yeah, well, we flagged the BVW to the exterior of that because we're considering that it is a pond and therefore would have the same 100-foot buffer zone as the BVW. So therefore, we wouldn't need to flag both unless the commission specifically requested that. But if the bank of the pond is going to be interior to the wetland line, then its buffer zone won't really make a difference in terms of pouring into the area of proposed work.
right, but now you have the flood zone coming into play. So now we need to make sure that flood zone makes sense in the context of the bank. Right?
So you would like us to show the,
Well, I would want to know that does the flood zone overtop the bank, or is it within the confines of the bank?
And the
Okay.
flood zone would need a different line type, because if you're saying it should be an elevation, but your wetland flags go from 62, 66, 64. They're all over the place. The floodplain line type should be shown on there.
And it should be a constant elevation.
Yes,
It
it can't be the
shouldn't
same as the wetland boundary in that case.
Right. So your flood zone is going to be constant elevation, right? It's not necessarily going to follow every jig and jog of a BDW. It's an elevation based. It's not vegetation based. I
yes,
think you need to revisit that.
that makes perfect sense. Yeah, we can look into that.
Yeah. And I might
All right,
have missed this.
so, any further,
I do. I have one more. It's been bugging me because of the site visit, and I may have missed this one. If we can go back to the
Yeah, go ahead.
entrance. And I know on the site visit, we were wondering why the driveway was swinging so far towards the water, and it wasn't reversed with the stormwater system. Did you already address that? And I apologize if you did.
The question was if we have I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Right. So on the site visit, we noted, at least I remember, the entrance was very close to the pond side. And we talked about, well, why can't they flip it to the other side, further to the railroad side, and get it further away from the pond? I don't know if that question was asked. You can call up the site plan.
Yeah, I can bring up the site plan
Yeah.
again.
Remember we were wondering,
This was when you get to the bottom of the steep driveway, right?
yeah, where Dan was doing donuts down there. Yeah. Remember we were in the snow.
Yeah,
So yeah, we are you're asking about the location of the driveway. So there's a setback for the railroad that we're maintaining here that I don't believe is shown on this particular plan. But this is all existing degraded and partially impervious surface associated with that little pull off to the road there.
Right.
So that's where the road is coming in.
Yep. I get that, but then you swing really close to the and it may be a radius issue, but you get really close to the pond, and we were thinking, well, we're physically walking down a path that's already there, that's degraded. Why can't the driveway be where we're walking? Which I don't know if shown. I can't see that path in this existing conditions. I don't know if you can zoom in.
Yeah, it says existing cart path and gravel driveway are proposed.
Yeah. No, I believe Craig Siganowski from RIM is on the call as well. And Craig, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the reason for that, for the planning of that, was due to the infiltration basin being placed here for stormwater management for this.
Right. So the question is, why can't you flip it? You always want to put your road and your pavement furthest from the resource area as possible, I would think. So the question is, can you flip those two? And is there any reason why you can't pull the road away from the pond?
Sure. I believe the road was pitched away from the pond to go into this infiltration basin. My office doesn't handle the site plans and system. I can definitely discuss that with our team and get a more solid answer for you on that.
Yeah, this is Craig Siganowski, RIM Engineering. Yes, it was designed to be super elevated so that the edge of the driveway closest to the pond would flow towards that swale that Margaret Bacon had designed. Obviously, if she can change that, we could move things around, but I know she was trying to address John Chessier's comments, and I'm not sure where she is with that.
Okay, Jennifer, maybe we can talk to John about that. And whether it makes sense. Because I remember standing there saying, why does it have to be this close?
Yeah, we did ask the question. I thought that was part of what they were reviewing in the stormwater changes that they made.
Okay.
Can I just say one thing?
But there's a fairly steep. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering. I'm the one in charge of the stormwater. And one of the reasons we had the basin there, because right now there's kind of almost like a natural existing depression, and it seemed like the most logical point to try to use what's already there existing to minimize grading. So that was one of the reasons we had that one there.
Okay.
The other thing of concern is that it looks like the elevation of Route 140 there is at 83 potentially.
It's pretty steep.
And then, or actually, it's actually a little higher, 88. And right, so you would be going down 17 feet in a fairly short distance. So, you have potential wintertime problems with that kind of a steep slope there. And that would just be a consideration, because the way it enters now, it's a fairly shallow grade going down. So that's the only issue I would raise with that.
Yeah, thank you. We can.
So I don't know. Does DPW? Well, I'm wondering if there are any kind of regulations with regard to an entry road coming off an issue or not.
It's going to be private. It's going to be privately owned, correct? You can make it whatever slope you want.
Well, the planning board is reviewing it.
Yeah.
So
It's steeper than normal.
they'll make their decision.
Yeah.
Grades we chose meet the requirements for a town road. If it was to be, it's going to be 20 feet wide, so we're designed it in conformance with the regulations. Although it is a driveway, The reason we didn't move it further up is the site distance to the crest of the hill at the railroad. Closer you get, you can't see over that crest until the car's right on top of you. So for safety reasons, the entrance already exists where it is.
Yeah, the question wasn't the entrance, it was just how close you were to the pond. I get that you already have a curb cut, and I get the site distance, but
Okay.
it was just the proximity to the pond, that's all. So,
So I think there's some outstanding issues that have yet to be reviewed. Is that so? This would be considered for a continuation, and we can ask audience members or commission members if there are any further comments or questions, and if not, we can consider a continuation for either the 24th of this month or the 14th of June.
We'd be happy to go with the 24th for now.
And I don't see any.
I mean, you can
Okay.
certainly ask for a continuance to the 24th, but unless you have all of your documentation ready to be submitted by, well, today, I don't know that John has time to review any new stormwater information right now anyway.
Okay, well, I won't ask Margaret to pull an all-nighter tonight, so we can go with, what was it, June 14th, you said?
June 14th, yeah.
All right, great. Thank you very
Yes.
much for your time.
I'll make the motion. We
All right, so we can,
continue file number 250-1070 to the June 14th meeting.
second,
a motion made by Dan Doyle and seconded by Lisa. We'll do a roll call. We'll start with Lisa and then Ron.
aye.
Aye.
And then Jean, and then Dan Doyle.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Aye. Sorry, I was my connection was down for 2 or 3 minutes there. Sorry.
All right, well, you're back with us.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And we have orders of conditions and orders of resource area delineation. First one is file number 250-1057 for 253 Mansfield C. And Jen, just for clarification, the circled ones are specific to this, the rest are basically boilerplate, is that correct? All right. So fairly straightforward to my reading. Any other comments?
So Jennifer, number 33, you just need a space between activities and on, and why was this one flagged? Wouldn't we
It's just
put,
that it was not a standard condition.
oh, okay. Okay. Oh, 57.
Any other?
I would go so far. Did the planning board ask them to add anything about pet waste bags? Because personally, I don't think a sign alone is going to cut it.
I don't know if planning board has gone that far.
So I think, was it East Main? They have stations with the bags. Right? The condos in East Main Street.
Okay,
I don't think a sign's effective at all.
Yeah, I've seen those at the apartments on East Main Street.
Yeah, the dispensers, the waste dispenser stations, whatever you want to call them. I don't know if there's a proprietary name for them.
okay.
And that, that's the last one.
So Lisa, you're saying it should be just altered to include beyond post signs and have supplies
Okay.
available?
I think they should put the pet waste bag stands with it. I mean, the sign alone is not gonna do anything. So.
Okay.
That's just my personal opinion.
But is that a general item or is that a brand name?
No, I mean, just, I should have said a non-proprietary,
I'm a,
not a proprietary. I meant to say non-proprietary.
right, well, I don't, no, I'm not sure much space for sure. So,
I can figure out how to word it. It's fine.
Thank you.
no problem.
So Jennifer, I remember during this hearing, I asked you, and you probably put it in here,
So-
but I can't remember what it was, top of my head, to add something to the O&M. Because I thought, oh, how are they gonna know to do this? And I said, Jennifer, can you add that to the O&M? And of course, I don't remember what it was. There was some unique feature about the stormwater system.
It is possible that they did it and put it in the revision that we received recently.
Okay,
But I included all of the ones that John Chesia specifically suggested we include.
okay,
My guess is if you had mentioned something, I would have put it in the draft, and then if it was received in the revised O&M, I would have just deleted it.
okay. Great. Well, I will make a motion then to issue the order of conditions for file number 250-1057 as discussed.
All right, we have a motion made by Lisa for the revised draft of order of conditions file number 250 and seconded by
I'll
second.
I think Dan Doyle beat you by a few milliseconds. So a roll call vote. We'll start with Lisa, followed by Ron.
Aye.
And then Jean, Dan Doyle, and Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. All right, so the motion carries and our voice vote signifies our signature. And our next item, 3 Mile Bridge, notice of intent file number 250-1075, Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Attachment, I got lost a little in the weeds on this stuff. We have boilerplate 1, 2, 3, and then specific 4, 5, 6 confirmation of numbers for total riverfront area? Did that happen?
I think it was submitted recently, so I can go over that when I'm back in the office tomorrow.
All right, and then we have 8, 9, 10 don't seem very controversial. 12, okay. And then at 18, that is just specific. These now this is a brand name, is that correct? The Coer logs?
I think it's just a type. It's not the brand name.
Means coconut.
Okay.
Have to abstain.
Oh, means coconut?
Yeah, core, coconut.
All right. And then my copy says at 38 up to here, and that means we ignore.
No, I had just, that's where I had to stop before I went on vacation. So they're not directional drilling, so you can cross that word off, but the frac out contingency plan should still be there. And then whatever I crossed off, you don't have to worry about. I just didn't have time to do that typing.
So the ones that are crossed through don't apply.
Right.
Then. But you're, I'm confused then by 39. I mean, there's no directional drilling going on, right? So why would we have a frac out contingent?
They're taking down the whole embankment and building a new one. So they're still gonna be using the turbidity curtains. And they might still need a frac out plan.
Okay. I had missed the first one, the first meeting on this, and I see you included the little form to sign. So you want me to sign these and put them in the truck?
Yes,
Okay.
that you need to sign that. That's why I gave it to you.
Yep, I got it.
Thank you.
That brings up the question, and if we were at that meeting, do we still have to sign?
No. That letter says I wasn't at the
No,
meeting. So if you were there, you don't need to sign it.
Okay, all right.
Julian, if you could just sign, you could just sign the PDF and
Yeah,
and send it. That's what I did.
Oh. I'm not sure I got, the PDF is in the agenda package.
Mhm.
All right, I can drop it in the truck. That's no big deal.
Great.
So if there are no further questions or significant revisions, we can consider a motion to issue these orders of conditions for 250-1075.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion. Oh. Am I still?
Yep, you made a motion. Thank you.
You are here. You made the motion.
All right.
And we're looking for a second for file number 250-1075.
I'll second.
And was that you? Okay, we have a motion seconded by Gene and made by Dan Pearson initially. So again, roll call.
Aye.
Lisa, you're up next. And
Abstain.
then, you have to abstain. Okay. And now Gene and Dan Doyle and Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Dan Doyle, was that an abstain?
For the record, yeah, I abstain.
Catch that. How many ayes do we have? We have 1, 2, 3. I guess I'll throw in an eye on that one. And the motion carries. Next item, full certificate of compliance for file number 250-1026, Condyne Engineering Group, 15 Leonard Street. This
We
is
have all the
proposed
information
plans
now.
where to construct a 125,000 square foot. So I believe, Lisa, you have to abstain from this, is that correct?
Yes.
I'll
We can consider.
I'll make the motion to issue the full certificate of compliance for 250-1026.
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Dan Doyle and seconded by Dan Pearson. So all set, we can start with Ron and then Gene.
Aye.
Aye.
Dan Doyle and Dan
Aye.
Pearson.
Aye.
For the record, Lisa abstains. And we have a full certificate of compliance for the town of Norton for file number 250-0943 off Plain Street.
I just don't have proof the no disturbance zone
So
signs
is this
were
something
posted
we
yet.
can issue? So we can potentially table it?
I think we have to.
Yeah, table it until the signs are either installed or.
All right, fair enough. So we have draft minutes. The 12th. I was not present, as was Lisa not present. But Gene, Ron, Dan Pearson, Dan Doyle, do you have any comments on the minutes? Otherwise, I can consider a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as stated.
Second.
Motion made by Gene, seconded by Ron. Ron and Jean, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Dan Doyle and Dan Pearson.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, and I'll throw in an abstention, as I'm sure Lisa does.
Same.
For Monday, April 26th, I think we have a full board that meeting, and I have no comments. Anybody else have any comments on the draft submitted?
Nope, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 26th, 2021.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Lisa, seconded by Dan Doyle to approve the minutes as submitted for Monday, April 26th. Starting with Ron and Dan Doyle,
Aye. Aye.
Jean and Lisa.
Aye.
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 And I think Dan Pearson threw in an aye, and I'll throw in an aye. All right, our next items are the new policy for boarding land subject to flooding, attachment E.
Correct. The floodplain that's near the railroad and the 3 Mile River off of Taunton Ave is only a zone A. When DOT did their bridge work, they calculated the floodplain elevation and gave that information to us in the report. And so to make it clear to everybody in that area for future projects, it's good to make it a policy so they know exactly which elevation they should be using.
So Jennifer, just for clarification, if we could reword, you have to do a lot of writing to see what river it is. So I would just put a policy regarding a 100-year floodplain of the 3 Mile River at Attleboro, and then there's something missing. Attleboro secondary line, BER. Oh, over. Am I supposed to say over?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
over. Yep.
okay.
Yep.
So do we have to make a motion to accept this as a commission's policy?
Yes, and then I have to post it with the clerk.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Lisa and seconded by?
I'll second.
I think Dan Doyle seconded, just a little ahead. So this is a motion regarding the 100-year floodplain level at of the 3 Mile River at the Attleboro Secondary Road crossing. And all those in favor, we'll start with Ron and then Dan Doyle.
Aye. Aye.
Jean and then Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And then Dan Pearson.
Aye.
And I'll throw in an aye. And last, we have a bunch of old business. Any updates on violations, site inspections?
Nope, we just have 3 things left. If we go back to the beginning of the
Yeah.
agenda, people did not show up for the tree house, so you may want to continue that to the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to continue, goodness gracious.
So there's nothing to continue, it's just a discussion, right?
Right.
Table the discussion.
Okay. There's really nothing to act on, they can just.
Yeah, so
Put on the
Okay.
agenda. Okay,
Okay, and then the one after that is Pine Street, the
as
ORAD.
you
You want to
point-
look over that so we can issue that too.
yeah, so Jennifer, I had a couple things on this one.
Sure.
So bank, we said they didn't put in the field, but then we stay silent on BBW, land under, and ILSF and IBW. So I just think, just for consistency's sake, if we say we're gonna they put flags in for one or not the others, you know? I mean, I don't know whether you want to do it in the reverse, just to say all the others were under each one, or whatever your preference. So 8H, we now want to add ILSF to. Right?
Yep.
And then number 9, we want to add tonight's hearing to, because they provided information.
Yep.
And the same for that's a different, never mind. It's a different. Okay, so then we held 4 public hearings and then May 10th. Okay. So I guess I will make a motion to issue the, was it an order or was it
An order of resource area delineation.
oh, this is, so that's
it's
one thing we have to change, because it says order of conditions at the top. In the header. Right? The header of the document has to be changed.
Oh, got it. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, that's what threw me off.
Nope, that's okay.
So I'll make a motion to issue the ORAD for file 250-1075 as discussed.
A motion made by Lisa and seconded by? Seconded by Ron. So a roll call vote. We'll start with Ron and then Dan Doyle.
Aye. Aye.
Jean and then Lisa.
Aye.
Aye.
And then Dan Pearson, and I'll throw in an aye.
Aye.
All right. So the motion carries. And you said there was a third item, or did we trample over that?
Just a question for you. If you guys all filled out that survey that I had sent around, the town manager had asked if we want to continue with virtual meetings or not. So if you hadn't seen it, just check your junk folder. And if you have answered, then thanks.
What do you think, Miss Jennifer?
I think it's nice not to have to sit in the office for those 3 hours in between the meeting to get everything ready, but it's also sometimes can be a little difficult. It's a lot of work for us, you know, to make sure we have the documents ready on the screen, and then sometimes we don't get them right away, but that would be the same as if we were in the building looking for hard copies. Certainly if the weather is not nice, it is nice to be at home.
Yeah.
And it seems like most of the applicants and the consultants really like it because they can go to more than one meeting a night. Although some of their screen sharing is not always the best presentation, but we have that in person as well.
Yeah, I'm going to say that in the spirit of the open meeting law, I think the things you're citing is that it's easier for the applicants and for the public, and so, and it's also often unwieldy with regard to all the time delays and all of that. So I'm happy to go back to the
Well, from a consultant perspective, I can tell you it cuts hundreds of dollars off the project. Just for travel time. Travel time alone to make it to a public hearing can sometimes be hours. through rush hour traffic up 128 if you have to be
All
somewhere.
right.
So anyway, it's very cost effective, and it's much more economical from.
But the reality, because we read this preamble that there is a specific governor's order
Yep.
Superseding the open meeting law.
So
And
is that gonna be
at some
lifted?
point, that's
Yeah.
gonna be lifted, and then they're lifted. And, you know, it all depends on how things go with the vaccinations and the number of cases and so on, because you're going to have huge portions of the bit for all of the restrictions to be lifted. And then it's a moot point.
So why do you think Mike was asking us, Jen, if, you know, thinking back, it is up to the governor, so.
I have a feeling Mass Municipal Association is petitioning the governor to continue it even after, or a hybrid version of it, even after
Yep.
the state of emergency is lifted, because this is temporary.
Yeah.
Once the state of emergency is lifted, then we have to go back to in-person meetings unless the governor comes up with another order.
All right.
Certainly in Western Mass,
Yeah,
it would be very
I
difficult
I
for them where
think,
they don't even have high-speed internet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So there may be some concessions
Good
for
point.
where people live
Yeah,
and their technical abilities.
Yeah.
I definitely don't want to have to do.
But also, it's
Sounds like
it is
Julian's in like
a
Peru or
definite
Florida.
access issue.
Right now.
I'm afraid I lost that because you cut out. I
I'm
didn't
here.
hear what you said.
I
And
just,
Julian and Dan have the most trouble with the internet connection, definitely.
sorry. I'm here
Well,
now.
I told you, I just replaced my router box today, and it seems to be better.
Interestingly, mine was replaced some weeks ago, maybe months ago, but I moved to a room where the reception is good because I didn't want Lisa to make a comment about how I'm broadcasting from inside a closet or a dungeon.
I was just asking.
But you no longer look like a kidnapped victim, so that is helpful.
Oh, well. I'll put little bars over my screen.
All right, if there's nothing else, then we can adjourn.
All right, so
Jen,
I think we're going to signify adjourn.
Yes, with a wave, right?
Peter,
yes, I can't wait to get back, and I'm comfortable with
all
going.
right, where is?
Right?
Thank you, Peter.
All right, sounds
Thank you,
good.
Mayor Wiggins.
All right.
Take it
till
easy
next
again.
time.
Have a good night, everybody. One more thing. My cat went pee in the toilet during our meeting tonight. I swear to God. You all know the cat because she walks by the screen. I just had to mention it.
That's impressive. Potty trained cat.
But
We're learning how to flush now.
have you trained your cat?
No, she does it on her own.
Have you trained your cat? Because there is a program. Okay, good. Well, she's precocious.
Oh, that made my night, Dan. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Cat
Have a
prodigy.
good night, everybody.
Good night.
You know?